What's going on, everyone? Coach Aaron here, back in another video to help you dominate a platform. In the video today, we're going to go over how you can adjust your programming if you have limited time to train. So let's get right into the video. Alrighty everyone, welcome back to the channel and thank you for tuning into another video. If you are new here to the channel and you don't know who I am, my name is Aaron Kamesi. I'm a powerlifting coach, athlete, referee, and meet director. So I make videos here on the channel to help out those groups of people. In this video today, as I mentioned, we're gonna go over what kind of adjustments you can make to your training program to make sure you get all your training in if you have a limited time for a single session or multiple sessions, or even for like a training cycle. It's easy to get all the training in when you have 1.5 hours to 2 hours per session, but what if you only have an hour or only 45 minutes to train? What can you do to make sure you're still getting everything in and progressing on your lifts? So first, you need to figure out whether you're limited on the number of training sessions you can do in a week, if you're limited on the amount of time you can put into a single training session, or a combination of both. If you are limited on the number of training sessions you can do in a week, I already did a video on that. You can check that out. I have a link for it down in the description below and a card for it above. And in that video, I go over what kind of training frequency I typically use for my lifters and how you can make adjustments, whether you're training only 4 times a week or even 3 times a week. So be sure to check out that video. So for this video, we're gonna focus on that time aspect in a single session. All right, so if you are limited on time in a single session, you have to figure out what is your goal or your priority for that single session and put the focus onto that. And if you're limited on time for all the sessions in a week and maybe for a training cycle, then you can use that same concept and apply it to the entire training week or the entire training cycle and see what is your primary goal. Are you preparing for a competition and your goal is the competition lifts and going heavy and being as specific as possible? Or are you farther out from a competition and maybe the goal right there is going to be hypertrophy or maybe dropping down a weight class, and so you're going to adjust your programming based on what that primary goal is. You don't want to be spending 40 to 50% of your training session time on the main lifts and then spending that 50 to 60% on accessory work if you're leading up to a competition and your goal is to basically lift the most weight possible in that competition. Instead, you want to focus on putting 80% of your time in a single session to the main lifts, getting that competition practice in, and then putting 20% towards the other stuff, any assistant exercises, accessory work, mobility work, cardio, and all that kinds of stuff that you may have to do. Now, once you prioritize your goals for that single session or week or training cycle, and you figure out where you're going to focus your programming on, one thing to look at is your rest times. I see it way too often where powerlifters rest a lot longer than they think because they're not tracking their time and they're forgetting about the time where maybe they're talking to someone or going to the bathroom, getting some water. And then when they're ready to go do their set, they think that their rest time is stopped, but really they're like picking their song and they're putting on the wrist wraps, they're putting on their belt, they're going underneath the bar, and all that is included in your rest times. So one big thing that you should be doing is tracking your rest times and seeing if they're too long, and you can cut down on that rest time. If you're leading up to a competition and you're resting 20 minutes between your singles, then you definitely want to reduce that rest time at least to 10 to 15 minutes, if not maybe 7 to 10 minutes. And if you're way out from a competition, you're focusing on hypertrophy work and you're doing lower RPE work for your main list, then again, you should not be resting even 10 minutes. You should be reducing it down to maybe 2 to 6 minutes, depending on whether it's a squat, bench press, or deadlift. Lots of lifters will see if they're in the 5 to 10 rep range at a lower RPE for hypertrophy work, they can rest, let's say 2 to 4 minutes on bench press and maybe 3 to 5 minutes on squat and deadlift. So if you're only resting 2 to 4 minutes on the bench press, you can get a lot of sets in and a lot of volume in let's say a 30-minute training session, including your warm-up time to get you maybe to 45 minutes or an hour, rather than spending 10 to 15 minutes resting and only getting a few sets in. So you can just grab your phone and when you finish a set, click the little stopwatch and then monitor that and make sure you're not resting too long. And if you are tracking your rest times and they are not too long, let's go to the next tip. So another tip to prioritize your main lifts, or whatever your main focus is for that day, is to take all the accessory work and superset it. So you don't have to do 3 sets of biceps with 2 to 3 minutes rest and then move on to 3 sets of triceps and do 2 to 3 minutes rest, and then move on to 3 sets of rear delts to do 2 to 3 minutes rest, because you're just taking too much rest time and that is going to make your sessions longer and take away from your main lifts. Instead, what we can do is you can superset 2 or even do a tricep and superset all of those 3 exercises and just do them back to back. So you do your biceps, then you grab a different dumbbells if you need to, do your triceps, grab a different dumbbell, do your rear delts, and then you take a 2-minute rest and then you go back and run that again. So instead, you're just resting that 2 minutes at the end of each round of all 3 exercises rather than 2 minutes after every single exercise, every single set, and then also switching between the exercises. That's going to make you more efficient with your time on your accessory work, and then you can take that time and put it into main lifts if you have that time, or you can take that time to then finish your workout sooner and go home. And speaking of accessory work and home, the next tip is that you may be able to do some of your accessory work at home. So that way you don't have to spend the time in the gym doing it. You can do it at home when you may have more free time while you're cooking something, or if you're watching TV or hanging out with your family. training. Depending on what you have access to, you can do either bodyweight work or you can do light dumbbell work. So again, going over like a rear delt raise, you can do that with light dumbbells at home. Same thing with the chest fly, same thing with planks. So you can get some accessory work in for certain muscle groups at home and not waste that time at the gym doing those accessory exercises. And what you'll realize is that when you're at home, you do have these little pockets of time where basically you can't start something new because it's not enough time. And so you basically just like, go on social media or, watch something on TV, but instead you could do that accessory exercise and you can even combine it with some of that stuff. So while you're watching TV, if a commercial comes on, then you can grab your dumbbells and do your bicep work, you can do your rear delt work, your chest flies, your planks, your mobility work. If you have a cardio machine at home, you can also do your cardio at home. So all those things will make you more efficient with your time so that at the gym you can focus on the most important things, and then at home when you do have those pockets of free time, you can throw in these less important things. And another tip when it comes to your main list, if you want to throw in a bunch of fatigue really fast, especially let's say you're going to the gym and maybe the gym is closing and you thought you'd get everything in time, but you're not going to, instead of just like cutting out those sets and losing out on that volume of fatigue, is you can do an Amrap set. That stands for as many reps as possible. So let's say you have 5 sets of 5 on some kind of main lift and then the gym is about to close or you have to leave for an emergency or something like that and you only got 3 sets in. What you can do is on that 4th set instead, do the Amrap and see how many reps you get, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is. You get more volume, more fatigue in on that one set, and then you can get out of the gym. And just as a side note, you don't have to go until you're completely failed or until an RPE 10. I know it is as many reps as possible, but you can kind of set a limit on yourself to RPE 9.5 or even RPE 9, and you're still gonna get a lot out of it. So as you're doing your reps, if you feel like, hey, I feel like I'm getting to a 9.5, I'm not sure if I can do this next rep, then just rack it and call it a day. There's lots of other different techniques that you can use to be more efficient with your time. For example, you can do something like mile reps to get a lot of volume fatigue into a short period of time, or you can do something where you shift your training, where you're only doing the main lift on 3 out of the 4, let's say training sessions, and on the 4th training session of the week, if you know you have short time, you do all your accessory work on that day where you're gonna have less warming up and it's gonna be less time dedicated to each accessory exercise. Plus you can do those other things like superset to get through it faster. So let's say you have 3 sessions where you can dedicate an hour and a half, you do just the main lift, and then on that 4th session where you only have 30 to 45 minutes, then you knock out all your accessory work. That way you can get that volume in for those muscle groups you're trying to build up. So lots of different ways that you can get your work in. You just gotta be a little bit creative with your strategy for each training session or a training week. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're limited on the number of training sessions you can have in a week, I already have a video out on that you can look into. I'll put the little video for it right here that you can click on to watch next. Or if you just wanna see any kind of powerlifting tips I have there, I have all kinds of videos for all kinds of tips, whether you're a coach, meet director, referee, or just an athlete. I'll put the little playlist video right here. You can click on that. Either one would be a good next option for you depending on what you're looking for. But other than that, hope you guys are having a good week. You can have a good weekend, and I'll see you in that next video.